All right, everyone, welcome back. We are Comp 229, that's Web Application Development in the fall 2020 semester, at least for this recording, and it's week 3. And we're talking about an introduction to Express.js. So let's go over the technical requirements once more. Technical requirements for this week. Visual Studio Code has been installed. Git has been installed. Node.js has been installed, and we tried that out last week. We made a small server. You should also know how to install npm packages. And from a knowledge requirements perspective, again, JavaScript is something that you should now be more comfortable with after a couple of weeks. And last week we did an overview of Node.js, which means you should understand its event-driven behavior. All right, so what are we doing this week? This week we are building up on what we did last week with our Express server. So let's do that. So here's Express. I'm just going to bring up our Visual Studio installation. Here we are. And last week we talked about a couple of things. We talked about how to create a simple server with Node.js, and we used NodeMon as a way of restarting the server when we make changes. And I talked about how this is a positive workflow compared to restarting the server manually on your own. Okay, so we're going to continue with this video, but first let's Control-C and stop the server. And what I want to do is talk about Express. So Express is middleware. Okay, so it's not something that can run on its own without Node.js. It needs Node.js to run. And it's a package that we have to install. So last week we installed our package.json file, and we did that with the help of npm init, that command. So this week we're going to continue. I'm going to press CLS for clear, and we're going to do an npm install, and it's going to be the name of the package again, Express, and then --save. And what this does is it will include Express as a package dependency for our project. Let's do this now. So I'm going to press enter. Okay, so it installed Express. You can see that the version that it installed is 4.17.1. So that is the version of Express that has been installed. And now it's been included in our project. You can also see that it created a module or a folder called Node Modules. One thing is our project is still named Week 2. I'm just going to close this down in our Visual Studio Code. I'm going to go back into our folder. Let's go find that folder on our desktop here. So let's do that. I'm just going to make a new or open a new folder on the desktop. So let's do that. And we have several folders. Here's one of them right here, Week 2. I'm going to rename this thing or copy it and make it to Week 3, just so we have a copy. There it is. Probably should have done this before, but that's okay. And now what I want to do is I want to drag Week 3 into Visual Studio Code. So let's do that. Again, you can see the drag and drop nature and how Visual Studio Code has direct access to the file system. Wonderful. So I want to run Express this time, not just Node. So we're still going to use our index.js. Here's our index.js file, but we're going to replace the code with Express, a version of Express. So let's go up online again, just like we did last week, and go onto the Express website. You can see here, give us installation instructions, npm install express --save. Similar to what we just did. If I click on getting started, there is a hello world. And this is the first part that we're going to kind of do today. And you can see that here, I'm just going to grab this code and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code and paste it in. Luckily, they've improved things. One thing I don't like about some of these websites is they don't put the semicolons in. I know it's not required, I'm just an old school person that way. I like to put in my semicolons to signify that we're going to go into a new executable expression the next line. Okay, so this is something different than what we had before. You can see here that we now require other packages. So the first one is, of course, express. And notice that when I hover over express with my mouse, you can see that it's a type of express. This is kind of an express object that we want. But really, what we're doing here is we're saying this represents the express class. And so here in this next line, on line 2, we're saying, okay, we need to make a new application, and it's going to be of type express. Notice that we're not using the new keyword here. We're just using equals to express, open bracket, close bracket, but this is equivalent to us making a new object. Port is the same as last time, and this time we're using app.get, so a get type request, and you should know about requests by watching the videos on LinkedIn Learning. And this is the little root that we're looking at. The slash means when we go to the default root, so example would be localhost 127.0.0.1 port 3000. That is the root of our project. It's going to respond, that's the res. It's going to send a response that says hello world. Again, we're going to start with hello world, and I'll modify this to show you what it looks like with NodeMon. We still have two pieces, app.listen and app.get, but you notice that there isn't an explicit server object anymore. It's built into app. Okay, so kind of, it does a little bit more abstraction that way. Let's put another semicolon in here. All right, let's do the same thing. So I'm going to press Control backtick, which brings up our little terminal window. And I'm going to press or enter the keyword NodeMon from last week. And just like before, we have this example app listening at localhost 3000. Let's go back to Express now and see what it looks like. Notice if I save, it updates it just like last time. Let's go up on our website and see what it looks like. So I'm going to go here to localhost 3000. And you can see that it said, it used to say goodbye Crow World from last week, but this time it says hello world. And you can see that the text is changed. But like I said before, this isn't what hello world should look like. It should be hello comma world. And let's go back here and try that again. So if I press hello world, you can see now that it's restarted. And if I go back, it kind of puts hello world in there the right way. Now, one thing to note, and if you've done classes with me outside of Comp 229, so if we did Comp 125, then again, it's not exciting to work in this separated format. Sometimes what I'd like to do is bring Visual Studio Code on one side of the screen by using my window key and left arrow. And then what I like to do is bring my web browser to the right side by using window key and right arrow. So you can see now that I've split kind of half-half. Again, I'm still going to have to refresh, so there is no browser sync between the two, but that's okay. So this is the first thing we wanted to do today, just kind of put together a little server, but this time we're using a package, all right? And the package is Express, and it's something that we're using. We're not using the default Node.js package and HTTP, although Express is based on HTTP, so it does use that. It just abstracts it away, and it wraps HTTP and adds additional functionality. Let's see what else we can do with Express. So that is the first thing. So we can run it locally, like it says. And the guide, there's also something we're going to hit next video, which is the Express generator, which is pretty interesting. Let's look at basic routing for a second. What basic routing does is it talks about a particular method. So we have app and then the method as an example, and then the route and what it's going to do. So let's suppose I had another route. This is our first route. Let's go back to that index.js right here. This is our basic route, but let's suppose I had another route. So I have app.get. You can see that I'm getting good code hinting from Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to say, well, if I go and I enter the keyword info, right, that is our new route. And I still want to get a request response object. I'm going to use fat arrow notation to create my route, just like we have above. And this time, instead of a res.send hello world, we're going to do a res.send, and we're going to put in here kind of a goodbye, or maybe an info. Let's say site info. Okay, there we go. So pretty simple. And so let's see how this works. So I'm going to save it. You can see automatically that NodeMon will restart the server here at the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is let's go back up to our localhost and refresh and see what happens. So there's no visible change that's happening here. But take a look down here what happens if we change our URL to go to info. And if I press info now, you can see that it says site info. Yay, right? Really exciting. Now you may not think this is important, but this is an example of exactly what we're going to be doing when we have multiple pages. We're going to have multiple pages that have different routes. Here we have two different GET routes. And we're going to talk about these are two GET requests that we're making. There's other types of requests that you should know about right now with your readings. And one of them is a POST request, another common request. Usually we use POST for page processing. So example, if we have a contact page, let's make another one. So we have info. Let's make another route here, and we want to do contact. So we'll put in contact in here, and then we'll say contact us. Very simple, right? Here's some routes. So here we're actually handling the routing manually, and this is what you're going to see over the next week or so. We're going to be talking about routing with Express and how we have to specify pretty much every route that we want our server to respond to. Routes that aren't listed in our server are going to be responded with, or we're going to respond with a 404 not found. Let's take a look and see what happens here when I do this. If I refresh, again, if I save first, you're going to see that the server just restarted. And then if I go and put in, as an example, contact, and press enter, you can see now it says contact us. However, if I put some other address in here, let's just put in another address. So let's put in products. We don't have products, but if you put that in, you're going to see a cannot get. And cannot get is equivalent for us right now as a 404 not found. Can't find anything. There is no products route right now. So cannot get is not something that we would ever want to see. Okay. All right, that's it for today. I wanted to talk about a couple of things. The first thing we talked about was how to install Express. We used the npm package manager to install the Express package as a dependency in our package.json file. Pretty simple. And then we copied and pasted our code from the Express website, but notice that it is a lot cleaner in many ways than that old Node.js code that we did last week. Similar things, but gives us a lot more functionality. One thing to remember is that Node is very basic, and what we want to do with Node is add packages on top of things. Now you might think, wait, so does that mean we're not running Node? Again, just to reiterate, can't run anything in Express without Node. Node is our baseline, and it's the N in mean, Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node, and this week we're talking about Express. Okay, so that's it for me this week. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.